Have you ever walked into a store and thought, wow, how is this shirt only $5? Or maybe you've scrolled through an online shop, added 10 items to your cart, and spent less than what you'd pay for one pair of jeans at a department store. It's easy to get caught up in the thrill of cheap fashion. It feels convenient, harmless even. But here's something that might change the way you look at your closet forever. The reality is, behind every trendy $5 t-shirt and $10 pair of jeans, there's a system built on speed, exploitation, and silence. Fast fashion isn't just a clever business model. It's an industry designed to make us buy more, wear less, and think even less about the impact it leaves behind. And it's working really well. In the last 2 decades, fashion has become faster and cheaper than ever before. Brands release new collections every few weeks, sometimes every few days. The pressure to keep up with trends is relentless. But what most people don't realize is that someone, or something, is paying the true cost for all this convenience. And it's not the corporations profiting from it. Let's start with the obvious question. How can clothes be made so cheaply? The short answer: because they're made in places where labor is undervalued, workers are underpaid, and safety is often treated as optional. In countries like Bangladesh, Vietnam, and Cambodia, factories known as sweatshops employ millions of people, many of them women and even children, who work long hours in dangerous conditions for wages that barely cover basic living expenses. Now you might be thinking, but wait, aren't big brands supposed to monitor that stuff? And technically, yes. Many of them say they do. They have codes of conduct, public pledges, and glossy reports about ethical sourcing. But when you dig deeper, you'll find that a lot of these promises fall apart once you follow the supply chain to its roots. Third-party factories, subcontractors, and middlemen blur the lines of accountability. And in the end, the brands still get their products, fast and cheap, while the people making them are stuck in a cycle of poverty. What's even more disturbing is that the system isn't broken. It's working exactly how it was built to. Fast fashion thrives on planned obsolescence, meaning the clothes are literally designed to fall apart. Thin fabrics, loose seams, poor stitching, it's all part of the plan. That way, you'll throw it out and buy something new. It's not just a clothing problem, it's a psychological one. We're being trained to see clothes as disposable, not valuable. And while this might already sound bad, we've only just scratched the surface. Because beyond the human cost, there's an environmental price tag that's much, much bigger than most of us realize. So we've talked about the human cost, the exploitation, the factories, the people behind the price tags. But there's another layer to this that's even harder to ignore once you see it. The environment. Fast fashion is one of the most polluting industries on the planet. And I know that might sound dramatic, but it's not an exaggeration. Every year, the fashion industry produces over 100 billion garments. Think about that number. That's more than 12 pieces of clothing for every person on Earth, every single year. And the sad part is, most of those clothes won't be worn more than a handful of times. Some won't be worn at all. They'll sit in closets with tags still on, get tossed after one Instagram photo, or end up in landfills within weeks of being purchased. And it's not just about the quantity, it's what those clothes are made of. Most fast fashion items are created using synthetic fibers like polyester, nylon, and acrylic. These are basically types of plastic. They're cheap to produce, but they don't break down like natural fibers do. So when you throw out a $6 tank top made of polyester, it doesn't just disappear, it can take hundreds of years to decompose. And during that time, it releases microplastics into the soil and water, polluting ecosystems all over the world. Then there's the water issue. The fashion industry is responsible for 20% of global wastewater, and it takes around 2,700 liters of water to make a single cotton t-shirt. That's enough drinking water for one person for nearly 3 years. Just one shirt. Multiply that by billions, and you start to understand the scale of the problem. And we haven't even gotten to the dyeing process. The bright colors and prints we love come at a huge cost. Many dyes are toxic, and they often end up in rivers and lakes near production facilities. In some places, you can actually guess what color will be trending based on the color of the local water. That's not a joke, it's a terrifying reality. But the most dangerous part of all of this, most of it happens out of sight, out of mind. The supply chains are intentionally opaque, the marketing is carefully crafted, and the messaging is always about positivity. Be yourself, express your style, look good for less. It's designed to make you feel like you're making a choice. But in reality, the choice has already been made for you, and it's costing the planet far more than we realize. And here's the twist: even when we think we're doing better, by donating clothes or shopping consciously, we might still be playing into the very system we're trying to escape. Because fast fashion has learned how to disguise itself, and in next part, we're going to unpack exactly how it does that. And what you're not being told. Let's talk about how fast fashion is evolving, and how it's becoming harder and harder to recognize. Because here's the thing, the industry knows it has a bad reputation. It's been exposed in documentaries, slammed in the media, and dragged on social media. So what do companies do when the heat is on? They rebrand, they use new language, they start calling themselves eco-conscious, sustainable, or green. But underneath that fresh coat of paint, it's the same machine, running just as fast and just as dirty. It's called greenwashing, and it's everywhere. You'll see brands launch sustainable collections, or tag certain clothes as being made with recycled materials. Sounds good, right? But dig a little deeper, and you'll find that those items make up a tiny fraction of their total inventory, while the rest is business as usual. Or that the so-called recycled fabric only contains 5% recycled material, just enough to slap a green label on it. These campaigns aren't about change, they're about optics. Because if they can convince you that buying their conscious line is making a difference, you'll keep spending, and they'll keep producing. But here's where it gets even more complicated. A lot of people try to do the right thing by donating their old clothes. And that's great in theory. Reduce, reuse, recycle, right? But the reality is, donation bins and thrift stores are overflowing with clothes, more than they could ever sell. And the surplus? It doesn't magically get reused. It often gets shipped to countries in the global south, like Ghana, Chile, or Kenya, where it floods local markets, undercuts local textile industries, and creates mountains of waste. Entire regions are now drowning in second-hand clothes they never asked for. So even when we try to offload the guilt, we're still part of the loop. Fast fashion isn't just fast, it's relentless. It's designed to make you feel like you're always behind. New trends drop weekly. Influencers unbox hauls worth hundreds of dollars in one sitting. The pressure to stay current is constant, and if you can't keep up, you're made to feel like you're falling short. That's how the cycle stays alive, emotional manipulation. And here's the brutal irony: the people most affected by this system, the garment workers, the low-income communities overwhelmed with textile waste, the consumers convinced they need more to feel enough, they're the ones with the least power in it. Meanwhile, the brands keep growing, the CEOs keep profiting, and the planet keeps paying the price. But what if you could opt out? What if you didn't have to play the game at all? In final part, we'll look at how you can break free from the fast fashion trap, not with guilt, but with real choices that actually matter. So, what can we actually do about all this? Because after hearing everything, the exploitation, the waste, the greenwashing, it's easy to feel powerless. But that's exactly what the industry wants. For you to believe that you're just one person and your choices don't matter. But they do. They always have. The truth is, you don't have to be perfect to make a difference. It's not about never buying clothes again or only wearing organic hemp from now on. It's about slowing down, asking questions, being intentional. Start by challenging the idea that you need to constantly update your wardrobe to stay relevant. You don't. Style isn't about chasing trends. It's about expressing who you are, not who they want you to be. Consider buying less, but better. Thrift stores, vintage shops, clothing swaps. These aren't just alternatives. They're ways to push back against a system that thrives on excess. And when you do buy something new, look at where it comes from. Who made it? What's it made of? If a shirt costs $5, you have to ask yourself, who's really paying the price? And here's something most people don't talk about. Change doesn't have to start with your wallet. Start conversations. Share what you've learned. The fast fashion industry relies on silence. But the more we talk about it, the harder it becomes to ignore. Every time someone chooses not to buy into the hype, the cycle weakens. We're not just consumers, we're people. People with values, with empathy, with the power to demand better. Because when enough of us push back, industries listen. Change doesn't happen all at once. It happens through awareness, through action, and through small decisions that add up. Fast fashion sells a fantasy, a world where we can have everything, instantly, cheaply, endlessly. But that world comes with a cost we can't afford to keep paying. Not as individuals, not as a society, and definitely not as a planet. So next time you see that $4 top or that 70% off haul, pause. Ask yourself who made it, where it'll end up, and whether buying it is really worth more than your values. Because the truth is, fashion doesn't have to be fast to be powerful. It just has to be honest. Thanks for sticking with me through this. If this opened your eyes even a little, don't forget to share it with someone else. Because that's how change spreads, not through outrage, but through awareness. And remember, you always have a choice.